Saga Volume 8, written by Brian K. Vaughan and art by Fiona Staples. What's going on, everyone? I hope you like Saga, I hope you like westerns, and I hope you like abortions, because Saga Volume 8 has got all three in spades. This volume of Saga takes a little bit of a western detour, which I love. They go to this dusty planet with a western motif, and they dress like cowboys a bit, and it's a good time. This volume also has a lot of abortion kind of stuff in it, so I'm warning you ahead of time if it's a touchy subject for you. But it is played up in a pretty kind of ridiculous way, this volume. And I think this volume overall is pretty good and pretty funny in many ways, although it is a little bit dark. But I think you will all have a good time, so let's dive into it. Saga Volume 8. Issue 43. Last volume, Alana, Marco, Hazel, Petrichor, and Sir Robot managed to blast off and escape the comet Phang moments before the time-suck monster completely obliterated it. In the ensuing blast-off, though, it caused Alana, who was pregnant, to take a bit of a tumble, and she suffered a miscarriage. We now pick up from there on the Wooden Tree rocket ship. They are all discussing Alana's miscarriage. The baby is dead in her body. That is a certainty. The problem is, she needs to remove that fetus, or it could make her very sick. Normally, this wouldn't be a huge problem on Earth. You'd go to the doctor, and they would remove it. But no one on the Wooden Tree rocket ship has the surgical skills to do it. And because the baby is mixed with horns and wings, the sorcerers on Wreath, which I guess are Wreath's versions of doctors, if they went to them, as soon as they would see Alana's wings and lack of horns, they would refuse to help her. And the OBGYNs on Landfall, as soon as they see Alana's child has horns, they will flip out on her as well. Sir Robot chimes in. And by the way, everyone is unfriendly to Sir Robot now because last volume he took some fade away and he was acting irrationally and he almost killed Marco. So Sir Robot, he chimes in and he says, firstly, he is sorry for their loss. He also apologizes for his actions last volume and he says they were inexcusable. But excitedly he says, I may have just come up with the most brilliant plan. What is the plan? Well, they all fly down to the planet Pervious. I assume the planet is named Pervious as kind of a joke, sounding like pervert. So the planet Pervious is friendly to landfall. Alana and Sir Robot travel to a place on the planet called Abortion Town, an entire town with a western motif, whose main tourist attraction appears to be performing intergalactic abortions. How quaint! Fun for the whole family. A humanoid owl-looking alien named Dr. Sheriff, dressed as a mix between a sheriff in a cowboy western movie and a doctor, greets them saying, Howdy, strangers! Sir Robot and Alana, both in Old West-looking clothes, greet Dr. Sheriff. Sir Robot claims he is a robot named Earl Robot the 51st, and he says him and Alana are lovers and he impregnated her, and they want to get rid of it. The doctor didn't think a robot and a Landfallian could procreate together, but Sir Robot assures Dr. Sheriff they can in fact have children together. When the doctor asks how far Alana is along in her pregnancy, Alana answers she's about 8 months. The doctor replies, Your third trimester? I'm powerfully sorry, but there ain't a thing we can do for you under landfall jurisdiction. Sir Robot asks, is there nothing the doctor can do for them? The doctor tells them, well, on the other side of this rock, there is a place called the Badlands. Hell of a dangerous trip, but the doctors out there are willing to do just about anything, no questions asked. But you didn't hear it from me. Dr. Sheriff tips his hat and walks away. Sir Robot offers to continue the journey with Alana into the Badlands, but after what Sir Robot did last volume, Alana is through with him. She wants nothing to do with him. She says to him, we aren't doing shit, Sir Robot. The only reason I let you tag along is so we could try this stupid ruse of yours. And now that it's predictably gone tits up, you and I are finished. Sir Robot, surprised, says, "But where am I supposed to go?" Alana replies, "I don't give a good goddamn. All I know is I never want to see your face again." Alana then leaves Sir Robot. While Alana and Sir Robot were away, Marco was digging and working on building a new septic line to remove waste from their rocket ship. Eventually, he gets it working, and the sewage and fecal matter from the wooden tree rocket ship gets expelled out of it into the landscape. Eventually, Alana returns back to the rocket ship to talk with Marco, Petrichor, and Hazel about what she learned. She discusses how Sir Robot's plan didn't work, but they did get pointed in the direction of this planet's creepy back alley option, so there was that at least. While they are all talking, some monsters start walking out of the septic waste that Marco was expelling from the ship. Marco, Hazel, and Petrichor wonder what these horrific monsters are. Alana is familiar with them, and she says, "They're dung people." She explains some kind of microbes in the soil that animate feces, turn it into a gross approximation of whoever shat it out. I know some of you in the comment section of my Saga videos have expressed how this book is too random sometimes, and I think this would be a good example of that. Random shit monsters would fall into the very random kind of category. I myself find it funny, but I get why some people may be turned off to it. Anywho, the dung people start slowly walking towards them. Marco gets covered in shit by a monster that looks like Sir Robot in poo form. Alana is shooting at the dung people with her pistol, but it is kind of useless as the shit is just absorbing the blasts. Petrichor says, "Your weapons are useless against these monsters. We need proper spellcasting." Petrichor then gets tackled by one of the monsters. Hazel is scared, and she clutches her mom by the hip saying, "Mommy, they're gonna make us all dead." Alana then somehow, miraculously, casts some wreath fire magic from her hands, and she shoots out fire at the dung people. And Alana manages to kill them all. Afterwards, Alana stares at her hand and asks herself, "Wait, what? She should not be able to cast wreath magic and shoot fire from her hands? Yet she just did." Issue 44. Out in the wastelands of planet Pervious, a landfall soldier along with his girlfriend have traveled to this planet to get an abortion. They eventually have a run-in with an anti-abortion family whose members are only known as Pa, Ma, and Kid. The anti-abortion family end up confronting this young couple, and there is a gunfight. And the little one known as Kid shoots the male soldier, and Ma shoots the girlfriend. The young couple are dead. Kid asks Ma, "Damn it, Ma, that lady was with child." And Ma responds, "Not for long. Wicked creature was about to have that poor baby ripped right out of her womb." So this family are staunchly pro-life enough to kill any man, woman, and child that would disagree with them. Pa tells Ma and Kid, "Enough jawing over there. Either of you notice these tracks?" The tracks he found will eventually lead back to the wooden tree rocket ship. Pa suggests they follow them. Back in the wooden tree rocket ship, Alana is playing with her new wreath magic powers. She is spinning a little tornado in her hands and is saying, "This is so weird." Marco comments, "It's not possible. Spells can only be cast by those with wreath blood." Petrichor theorizes, "Obviously, when the child you two conceived passed, it must have transferred its capabilities to Alana." Alana then pukes out tons of black bile from her mouth. She is sick due to the dead fetus inside of her, as well as her use of magic. Marco says they need to get Alana to a doctor soon. Alana, Marco, and Hazel all travel together into the Badlands to get Alana some help. Because this planet is not friendly to Reethers, Marco is going to wear a disguise to hide his horns. Petrichor, she is going to stay back and guard the rocket ship while the others are gone. Marco, Alana, and Hazel travel and find an old moving train they will need to jump on to get them where they need to go. The train doesn't appear to have any guards on it at this point. It is on its way to get supplies, but right now it is basically empty. Alana with Hazel jumps, and she manages to land safely on top of a train car. Marco, he follows behind, and he lands on the train car roof, but he loses his balance, and he begins to fall off the train car. Luckily, Hazel knows some magic, and casts a spell, and she uses that spell to catch Marco and bring him back onto the train car with them. It was a close call, but they are all okay, and they are all going to continue on their journey to the Badlands via train. Petrichor is at camp and has a small fire going. She looks at a photograph of an old boyfriend of hers named Flustro, who has passed away during the war. She says to the photo, "I've held you in my heart since the day you left me, but you're too heavy to carry another step, and I need to keep moving." Petri, she burns the photo. She then performs some sort of spell by cutting herself and pouring some drops of blood into the fire. As she does this, she recites, "Saints above, I beseech you, in all my years I've asked for nothing, but if you feel I've lived a decent life, hear this, my one and only prayer. Please send me someone to fuck." Petri is lonely and horny, evidently. While Petrichor is alone and feeling bad for herself, Palma and Kid have followed the tracks and in the distance have found the wooden tree rocket ship, and they have visuals on Petrichor. In the train car, Alana, Marco, and Hazel were all sleeping. Alana, she gets woken up and hears Mom? Alana, tired, replies, "Sorry if I woke you, Hazel. Mommy just had a bad dream." The voice replies, "Hazel? I'm your son, silly." And we see an image of a small male child with wings and horns. Alana and Marco have a son? What? This cliffhanger will be explained in the next issue. Issue 45. Petrichor is in the wooden tree rocket ship in bed. She fell asleep reading a D. Oswald heist book named Petite Deaths Part 2. She gets awoken by the violent anti-abortion family who tell her to come outside or they will burn the ship and smoke her out. The reason they can all communicate with one another is thanks to Marco leaving a translation ring with Petrichor. Petrichor, she comes outside the ship and sees Pa, Ma, and Kid. Petrichor, she tries fighting them. She manages to injure Kid a bit, but she is eventually subdued and tied to a tree by way of a hangman's noose. They question Petri where her man is. They know she's not here alone. They saw the footprints. Petrichor figures out that Pa, Ma, and Kid assume she's pregnant and assume she came here to get an abortion. So Petrichor comes up with the whole story. She says that she is pregnant, and her boyfriend brought her here, forcing her against her will to get an abortion in the Badlands, but she couldn't go through with it. So she told her boyfriend that they were finished. Hearing the story, Pa, Ma, and Kid sympathize with her. Kid tells her, "You made the right call not going to the Badlands. Your baby and you would have been slaughtered soon as you got there." Petrichor asks, "What do they mean?" Pa answers, "That place is run by monsters." Ma adds, "And that ain't a figure of speech." This is worrisome. Marco, Alana, and Hazel are headed to the Badlands. Maybe Dr. Sheriff was lying to them and sent them right into a monster's lair? Pa, Ma, and Kid are going to let Petrichor live, but they still want to kill her supposed boyfriend, and they ask what direction he went in. Ma gets in close to Petrichor, trying to get an answer out of her. Petrichor sees this as an opportunity to fight. and she bites Ma on her nose and rips it right off her face. Pa, in retaliation, pulls the hangman's noose, and Petrichor starts being suspended by her neck, and she is dangling. She will surely die soon. Luckily, though, she gets saved by Sir Robot's return. Sir Robot, with his blaster, shoots off Kid's arm and then shoots through the rope that was suspending Petrichor in the air. Sir Robot, he then announces, "Evening, just stopped by to return a few things." We see he is holding another D. Oswald heist book, this one called Petite Deaths 3, which is the sequel to the book Petrichor was reading earlier. While all of that was going down, Marco, Alana, and Hazel are in the train car talking to their supposedly new son. Marco, seeing the boy, asks Alana, "Who is this boy?" The child answers, "It's me, Daddy, it's Curty." If you remember last volume, they were all on the comet Phang. Curty was the name of Hazel's badger-looking friend. Jabera, before she left, also told Alana, if you are looking for a name, might she suggest Curty? It means sunshine in their tongue. So that is what the name of this boy is, Curty. Marco, he knows what this child is. Alana has been exerting various wreath magical powers lately without even realizing what she is doing. Marco tells Alana that she just cast a spell called Forecast. Marco explains it's a very powerful projection spell. Our high clerics use it to simulate long-term outcomes before going into battle. So this child is your vision of the future. A possible one, anyway. Marco warns Alana that this spell is one with great cost, and Alana may be under risk of cardiac arrest if she keeps this spell up for too long. Alana doesn't know how to make it stop. So Curty is essentially the hypothetical sort of ghost projection child of Alana and Marco. Hazel is a bit scared and thinks Curty is a scary ghost. Curty answers her, "I'm not a ghost, ding-dong. I'm your favoritist brother." Eventually, Hazel and Curty, they hug. Later on, Alana, Marco, Hazel, and the ghost's child, Curty, all get off the train, and they continue their journey into the Badlands, and they are walking through some sort of wheat-looking field. Hazel and Curty are playing and running around a bit. Curty, he jumps into the air and he hovers a bit with his wings, and he blows a big fart out, which Hazel finds hilarious. She is at that age where farts are the peak of comedy. Eventually, Curty disappears as Alana passes out. Alana couldn't maintain the forecast spell for any longer. It was taking too much of a toll on her, and it caused her heart to give out on her. Marco talks with Hazel and tells Hazel that Hazel needs to cast a lightning spell called Fulmo to jolt Alana's heart awake. If Marco casts the spell himself, his lightning power will be too strong, but someone's Hazel's age will be able to cast the lightning spell with much less current in it. Hazel is scared. She doesn't think she can do it, but Marco tells her that's good because the spell is fueled by doubt. Marco walks Hazel through the steps and what to do and say. Hazel follows the steps and a little lightning cloud appears above Alana, and it shocks her and it works. Alana wakes up. Marco tells Hazel, "You just saved our family," but they still have to get Alana to a professional. That is when a creature named Endwife appears in front of them. Endwife is the back alley abortion doctor in these parts. She is a creepy wolf with 6 saggy nipples and blood on her hands. Endwife says, Yes, my darlings, you're in such very good hands." This must be the monster that Pa, Ma, and Kid were referring to. We see the wolf, and we see in the background some sort of farmhouse. Issue 46. Sir Robot has Pa, Ma, and Kid at gunpoint, and he is debating killing all 3 of them. Pa says to Sir Robot to kill him if he must, but spare his son. Sir Robot then thinks about his own son, Squire, and after contemplating it for a bit, he decides to let the three of them all go. It's not worth killing them, he feels. He tells them to get out of his sight. Pa, Ma, and Kid start riding away. Sir Robot then mimics a western cowboy accent and says, "But you set foot around these parts again, I turn your entire family to glue. Yes, yes, this ain't over, etc." And yes, he actually said etc. in his threats. Sir Robot, he then frees Petrichor from the constraints she was wrapped in. Petrichor is actually angry with Sir Robot for freeing her, she says. "Screw your White Knight act. I didn't need you to save me." Sir Robot replies, "That hemp necklace tells a different story, you ungrateful moony slag. If it weren't for my timely intervention, you'd be a goddamn bird feeder right now." Petrichor, she actually wanted to die. She was looking for a way out, and that is why she is angry with Sir Robot. Over to Marco, Alana, Hazel, and the wolf and wife. And wife looks scary, but the wolf says the blood on her hands is just from the last patient, and that Marco should bring Alana to the house so she can get to work. Marco brings Alana to the farmhouse. It actually looks pretty cozy inside. And wife's wolf pups are lying around the living room. Hazel is to stay in the living room while Marco takes Alana downstairs with Endwife to the operating room. While Marco with Alana goes downstairs, Curti reappears and talks with Hazel some more. Back over to Sir Robot and Petrichor. Petrichor revealed to Sir Robot that she was suicidal and was hoping to die. Sir Robot asks why. She was recently a prisoner of war. If she were to off herself, that would have been the time to do it. Now she's a free woman. Petrichor says, "You call this free?" Sir Robot replies, "At least Alana hasn't banished you. After she returns, I'm sure her family will take you wherever the hell you want to be." Petrichor explains there's nowhere she wants to be. There's nothing back for her on Wreath or anywhere. She then talks about her dead boyfriend, Flustro, and she says, "You have no clue what that man meant to me. Flustro was the only person who stood by my side during an unimaginably challenging transition." Sir Robot tells her, "No need to be coy, Petrichor. I'm well aware of your secret identity." Sir Robot is referencing the fact that Petrichor is trans. Petrichor is shocked and asks how Sir Robot knew. Did Hazel tell him? Sir Robot replies, "No, and I'm sure her myopic parents are still in the dark. I, however, had a sense from the moment we first met. Between us, I have always been rather fluid." I think Sir Robot is coming on to Petrichor. Petrichor replies, "Well, bully for you. This universe isn't as easy to navigate for those of us who aren't fortunate enough to be born into royalty." Petrichor, she pulls out a flask of alcohol, and the two of them share a drink. Back to the farmhouse, Endwife operates on Alana while Marco watches. While the operation is happening upstairs, Hazel, she talks with her brother. Curti asks if he is going to die. Hazel says she doesn't know if people who are make-believe can even do that. Curti replies, "I'm not make-believe, I'm Curti." Hazel explains, "No, Curti was a friend of mine who died for real. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but Daddy says you're more like an idea." Curti asks, "Can an idea get deaded?" Hazel corrects him and says, "It's die, and I don't think so, long as somebody remembers it." Curti asks her, "Will you remember me, Hazel, forever and ever?" Hazel replies, "Maybe, but I can't cross my heart. I liked the other Curti a whole lot, but I already have trouble remembering what color eyes he had and stuff." Curti asks Hazel to sing a song for him to make him feel better. Hazel says she's not a good singer. Curti says a simple lullaby will do. Hazel tells him that she only knows one that her old babysitter Isabel used to sing to her. Curti insists that Hazel sing it for him. Hazel does so. Hazel sings, "Good night, chubby baby, I can't rock you no more. I'm sorry, chubby baby, but my arms are getting sore. Sleep tight, chubby baby, and please don't get me wrong. You're a perfect size baby, so never accept fakey beauty standards or develop unhealthy body issues from this dumb song." Curtie, who is now lying down, tells her, "That sounded real awesome, Hazel. You should totally be a singer when you grow up." And Hazel replies, "I don't know, my parents said I'm probably going to be a doctor or something." And Curtie, who is now beginning to disappear, tells her, "Mommy and Daddy are wrong. You're going to be the bestest singer ever." Curtie, he then fully disappears. Hazel tells Curtie, "Goodbye, baby brother." And then the narration from future Hazel reads, "It's funny which random moments from the past our minds choose to cling to, isn't it?" Back over to Sir Robot and Petrichor. They've been drinking and talking, and they start discussing D. Oswald heist books, as well as other books, some written on the Robot Royal Kingdom. Sir Robot is surprised that Petrichor has read the works of the Robot Kingdom. Petrichor explains, "When I was a student, I read some of your ancient war stories from back when your fickle world was still an ally of our moon, before you bastards betrayed us and sided with the Wings." Sir Robot disagrees with her interpretation of history, and he starts arguing with her. He says, "Oh please, your people are the ones who stabbed my people in the back centuries ago." Petrichor dismisses this and says, "If you say so." Sir Robot replies, "I do say so, you mouthy trollop." They then start yelling at each other and arguing, and it almost looks like they're gonna fight. But instead of fighting to relieve the tension, they kiss. A full-blown, passionate kiss. Issue 47. Before I begin this issue, I need to refresh you all a little bit on where we left off with the Will last volume in Volume 7. In that volume, the Will ran into a mysterious woman named Ianth, and Ianth shot and killed Sweet Boy. She then told the Will, "We don't know each other, but you murdered someone I love." Ianth then shot the Will in his stomach. She has since taken him hostage and wants to get some information out of him. We begin with a flashback to a young The Will, aka Billy, and his sister, The Brand, aka Sophie. We see a scene with them when they were both little kids, and the Will's dad was going to beat the Will's sister with a switch. The dad winds up his swinging arm, but before he can follow through and hit his daughter, he gets stopped by a giant lizard that grabs the switch with its tongue. We see a man named The Letter has arrived, and the big lizard is his pet sidekick, as all freelancers seem to work with an animal sidekick, and The Letter is a freelancer. The Letter is also known as Uncle Steve to the Will and the Brand. The Will's dad and The Letter, aka Uncle Steve, begin to argue. The dad says, "What the hell is this, Steve? Your worthless drunk sister hire you to shake me down for alimony?" The Letter replies, "Angie's a year sober, got her old job back and everything. All she wants is to be a mother again, so I'm here to take the children home." The dad refuses, but The Letter says that Sophie sent us a letter about what you get up to in that cabin of yours. Now, it's not stated, but I assume the dad was abusing the Brand. The dad looks at his daughter angrily for ratting on him, and he slaps her. The Letter tells the dad, "You ought not to have done that." And then, holding an axe, The Letter kills the dad. We now go back to the current day. We see Ianth, the woman that killed Sweet Boy last volume. She is sprawled out on the floor of her spaceship on top of a rug she had made out of poor Sweet Boy. Oh, there he is, a rug. She is watching the Will's flashback we just saw on some type of TV screen. She apparently owns an expensive device known as a magic VCR. The magic VCR is connected to the Will's brain through wires. Also, in a hilarious throwback to old televisions, the wires are red, white, and yellow, which for those of us that have had TVs before HDMI, that is what the cables looked like. We see the Will is tied up and suspended off the ground with the wires going to his head. Through the magic VCR, Ianth and the Will can watch the Will's memories. Ianth talks with the Will. She reiterates how pissed off she is with the Will for murdering the love of her life, Hector. Not only did the Will murder him, the Will cut off half of his face. And she plans on watching the Will's memories back and then making him watch her murder all of his loved ones. Although after finding out the Will's sister is dead, she adds, "But it looks like you've already managed to lose most of your family, so we'll have to fast forward through some more shitty memories to find other contenders." The Will, trying to talk her out of killing everyone he loves, says she has every right to end him, but if she starts offing random civilians, the police will take her down. Ianth says no, they won't. She's a diplomat. She's basically a gangster with immunity. The two then watch another memory of the Will in his younger days. Note in this flashback, the Will has some glorious hair. The Will and the Stalk in this memory are working together to kill some stereotypical looking aliens as part of a job. While they are fighting the aliens, they are flirting and making plans to go out on a date. And eventually they make plans to get together. Ianth is pretty bored by the footage, and she knows that the Stalk ended up dying as well. She asks the Will, "Does everyone you meet end up dead?" Ianth then decides it is time to remove her mask and show her face to the Will. She says, "Well now, I was gonna save this dramatic reveal until we caught up to the actual moment of Hector's death, but alright, what the hell. Years ago, I was engaged to a young man named Hector. One fine day, he visited the planet Indica for work. And you cut his face in half. It used to be as pretty as mine." And she removes her mask and we see what she looks like. Ianth was assuming when the Will saw her face, it would immediately come back to him and he would remember who this Hector was that he killed. The Will is staring at her face and trying to remember who it was she's talking about, and then he says, "Sorry, not ringing any bells." Ianth is livid. She says, "Are you freaking kidding me? He was a private security consultant, helping his brothers on some case for sextillion, and you butchered all three of them." The Will, he remembers now and he says, "Oh yeah, Mama Son's goons, right? Lady, your boyfriend is working for a bunch of child rapists. I wish I could kill him again." Ianth, not believing him, calls him a liar. The Will tells her to keep watching, enjoy the show. For those of you who don't remember who we're talking about, let's jump way back to Volume 2. The Will and Gwendolyn were freeing Slave Girl, aka Sophie, from sextillion. And when they had to make the exchange, Mama's son sent these three weird-looking alien dudes in suits to make the trade. And they all ended up fighting. Well, Ianth's boyfriend Hector was one of these dudes. Hector was this dude specifically, the one that Lion Cat ate the face of. Anyway, that's who Hector was. Ianth keeps watching through the Will's memories, and she comes across the memory of the Will and Gwendolyn together, another of the Will's past loves. In this memory, Gwendolyn was bathing in some water, and her and the Will were talking about the job the Will was hired to do. He was supposed to kill Marco and collect the baby. Gwendolyn, in the memory, tells the Will, "This is about much more than Marco. His mongrel child is nothing less than a time bomb. If the general population ever learns that a Wreath foot soldier willingly procreated with an enlisted Landfallian woman..." Ianth, hearing this, is shocked, and she stops the playback. What did she just hear Gwendolyn say? Is that true? She says, "Billy boy, if what Tits here says is true, I'll be rich enough to hunt down and torture everyone you've ever met." All this time, you've known about a half-moony, half-wingnut child? Like a living, breathing entity? With gross little horns and feathers or whatever? People in my line of work wait their whole careers to find dirt as valuable as what your portly ass has been sitting on. The will says, trust me, it ain't worth the cost. Ianthe replies, because you only know how to monetize punching. Real power comes from secrets. Think about it. Every 2-bit conspiracy theorist out there believes both sides of this war have long been colluding behind the scenes. But if your bloated head contains proof that a couple of their soldiers are literally in bed together, I can crack the frickin' universe in half. Issue 48. Over on Planet Quietus, Goose, Friendo, Squire, and the journalists Upshur and Doff have all been living together. Upshur and Doff got stranded here when the will abandoned them here last volume. In the preceding months since that happened, Upshur and Doff have been living peacefully with the others. When the issue picks up, Upshur is about to kill Friendo by stabbing him with a sharp, jagged rock. Upshur says, I'm sorry you had to see this. So maybe they haven't been living so peacefully. Upshur is only doing this though because he and the others are extremely hungry. The crops are kinda shit and they haven't really came across much other food or animals to eat. Goose tells Upshur, don't you dare, Mr. Upshur! Don't you dare hurt one hair on that girl's head! Upshur stops himself. Goose continues, I'm as hungry as you are, but Goose knows we just gotta hold out hope that Marco and Delana and their rocket full of food will be back real soon. Upshur replies to Goose, you've been saying that for months, and Doff is really sick from the lack of food. Squire suggests that he and Goose hunt an animal known as a dreadnought. He saw one last week in the Barrens. The Barrens are kinda like this ominous, scary-looking forest wasteland. Upshur asks, what the hell is a dreadnought? And Goose answers, a wild thing, big game with plenty of meat on its bones. Upshur asks, since we're all so hungry, why in God's name haven't you hunted it down yet? Goose explains, cause the tricky beast is invisible until the day it dies. Squire says, they're not invisible to him though, due to his technology, he can see the beast's insides. Goose and Squire agree to go and try and hunt the dreadnought and get everyone the food they all very much need. And Goose promises, if they don't succeed in hunting the dreadnought and getting food, he will carve up sweet Friendo himself. Squire and Goose head out into the Barrens to hunt the dreadnought. As they are walking, they talk. Squire shares his concerns over being told his dad killed a woman, in reference to the stock. Goose explains Sir Robot was born into an awful bloody war. Squire also shares his worry that he will never get to marry a beautiful princess like his father did, he says. Father says a true knight's most important duty is to his romantic partner, but so long as we're unwelcome in the robot kingdom, I can't even visit the one world where my courtly love might be. Goose, trying to make Squire feel better, says, well, for what it's worth, I don't think folks gotta get hitched to be happy. Old Goose has always kept his own company just fine. Squire asks, then why go to all this trouble just to spare your pet, Friendo? Goose answers, Friendo is a lot more to me than just a pet. Squire, misunderstanding, asks, you mean you and the walrus lie together? Goose answers, what? No, nothing like that. I just mean my people got a strong bond with their livestock, but there will always be something special about Friendo. Got her from my sister after she passed from the lung disease. They walk and talk some more, and eventually they come across the dreadnought. Goose can't see it though, it's invisible to him, but Squire can see the creature's insides, like its brain and eyes and circulatory system. The dreadnought scoops up Goose and tosses him to the other side of the cave they are in. The dreadnought then picks up Goose's chopper axe and snaps it in half. Squire, a little scared now, points his bow and arrow at the beast. Goose is encouraging Squire to fire the arrow. But Squire, he just can't do it. Something wouldn't let him follow through with it. Eventually, the dreadnought got away. Goose is saddened that Squire couldn't kill the beast. Now they're going to have to kill and eat Friendo. Poor, sweet, delicious Friendo. When they return to camp, they are ecstatic to see that the wooden tree rocket ship has returned, and Friendo will most likely be spared into becoming a meal. Squire and Goose start running happily. When they arrive in camp, the whole gang is there. Squire, Upshur, Doff, Alana, Marco, Hazel, Petrichor, and Sir Robot. And they have brought food with them. Last time we saw Alana, Marco, and gang, they were getting an abortion on Pervious. Well, we have to assume that all went smoothly, and they also made up with Sir Robot, and they finally made their way here to Quietus. Marco, happy to see his old friend again, picks up Goose and gives him a big hug. Sir Robot and Squire, father and son, reunited once again. They celebrate too by giving each other a nice, firm handshake. Sir Robot introduces Squire to Hazel, the fair maiden he heard so much about. Squire says to Hazel, "You don't look like a fair maiden." Hazel replies, "So what? Do you even know what a fidget spinner is?" I guess at some point Hazel got a fidget spinner. Squire answers, "Of course I do." Hazel asks, "Then what does one look like?" And Squire answers, "I have no idea what a fidget spinner is." Hazel then playfully says, "Come on, Squirt, I'll show ya." Hazel and Squire, they run off together to go play. And everyone is happy all together once again. And that is the end of Volume 8. Alright, so that was Saga Volume 8. Let me go through some of my thoughts on this volume. I thought it was a pretty funny volume. The concept of Abortion Town was pretty amusing, and this owl cowboy doctor lady that was greeting them there, good stuff. The dung people, monsters made out of shit, was kind of amusing as well. I liked the moments between Sir Robot and Petrichor this volume. That was great stuff. Sir Robot is one of my favorite characters, and I thought he had some really amusing lines this volume with just the way he talks and acts towards Petrichor, so that was really good stuff. Some of the journeying with Alana, Marco, Hazel, and the Curty ghost child I thought was pretty interesting. Seeing Hazel talking with her ghost brother and seeing some things explored there was great. I thought the will issue in this volume was really good stuff. This magic VCR was a fun concept. I really enjoyed some of the flashbacks with the will, especially the one where we see the will and the Brand as little kids, and we see their Uncle Steve, aka the Letter, kill their dad. That was really powerful stuff. And that was a great issue overall. One of my other favorite characters in Saga is Goose, and he had some really fun moments this volume, hanging out with Squire and them going on that whole adventure together. Really good stuff. And we ended this volume on kind of a happy note with everyone being reunited at the end. So this was great stuff. Really funny, really amusing. I'm going to give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be back next week with Saga Volume 9.